We Need to Talk strikes fear into the hearts of most.
But we're breaking down that scary declaration on the Talking Couple podcast. I'm Deshaun.
And I'm Laurie. We're married.
Both from the South, but made the cross-country move to LA.
And are busy pursuing our careers. Even with the demands of life, we aim to put our marriage first. Every other week, we share personal experiences from our own relationship to help other couples spot red flags, get fresh insight,
and ultimately strengthen their partnerships. We get real, raw, and sometimes a little uncomfortable to give you the tools to change your life. Hello, world, and welcome to the Talking Couples podcast, episode number 104. If you're looking for a relationship, or if you're in one, this is the show for you.
We're not afraid to tackle tough topics, and we share personal stories that will hopefully inspire individual growth and a relationship revolution. And on today's episode, we are talking about getting unstuck when you feel like you just can't move forward.
So joining us today is Adonis Lenzy. He's an author, speaker, podcaster, TV show host, inspiring people of all stages of life, helping them with their dreams and showing them the lives that they could always imagine.
Yep. Sounds like an awesome job to me. So Adonis lives in the Nashville, Tennessee area. So shout out to all of our friends and family back home. Mm-hmm. His wife is Heather, and he has two kids, Grayson and Carrington. And fun fact about Adonis, he is an extra special guest on our show because he performed our marriage ceremony about 3.5 years ago. So he married us, which we think is really cool.
Yes,
so
awesome. Adonis, it's always good to see you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And
thank you all for inviting me.
Of course. And we're so glad to have Adonis on the show to help go through some difficult things, with disappointment and just to get, how to get those things going and get them out of our way.
When it's not going your way. And also, kind of how to follow your heart when you feel like you've settled for less than what you're meant to be. We're so glad you're here. But before we jump into the serious conversation, we do have a little icebreaker for you, just to give our listeners a chance to know you better. So fair enough? All right.
Awesome. So here we go.
We should say we do ask the same question, so we don't give preferential treatment.
Yeah.
We do ask the same question of all of our guests because we think the answers are pretty telling. Mm-hmm. So here you go. Put you on the spot here.
So what is the one thing that you hate but everybody else loves?
One thing that like everybody in the world?
Well, obviously we haven't polled everybody, but yeah. General consensus,
I guess.
I would have to say pie.
Oh, you think people hate pie? Oh, no, you hate pie.
You hate pie.
I hate it.
All kinds?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I just don't.
I don't think I've ever met anybody that doesn't like pie.
That's a good one.
I don't like the feeling, how you mix all the, if you're gonna eat an apple. Don't bake it and make it mushy and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna eat a pecan, don't put all the creamy stuff and just eat it, just crack it and eat it, Yeah. So that's me. So around the holidays, that's the big thing. It's like I don't like pie.
Are you one of those people that also doesn't like your food to touch?
Oh no, my food can touch.
Okay.
But it's one of those. When there's a dessert or something, don't be mixing. I'm very plain. So, my dessert is a bowl of vanilla ice cream.
Okay.
Or as crazy as I can get is butter pecan, and that's pushing it. So I stay right there in that zone right there. So
yeah, because you're adding pecans to ice cream.
Yeah.
Keeping it simple.
That's awesome. Well, more pie for me then.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I know I can speak for the both of us when I say I really relate to the feeling of being stuck on so many levels throughout our relationship. Mm-hmm. Whether it be like me focusing on my business, her being in her job, financial situations, even fitness goals.
Oh gosh, don't get me started.
The list goes on. And so
yeah, in your book, Next, What to Do When You Know There's Something More, you describe this epiphany that you had that sort of woke you up and changed your perspective when you were feeling stuck. So maybe that intrigued me. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what do you think that was that sort of sparked that awakening for you?
Yeah. I think, when depending on the individual, there's always that destiny beating in your heart, and you just always are dreaming and thinking forward, and you're just never satisfied with where you are. Mm-hmm. And if you're that type of individual, there's no way around that. And it doesn't mean you are ungrateful for the things that you do have, depending mm-hmm. upon your faith, your religious background. I'm definitely a believer. Part of my background is ministry as well. And so I've always been thankful to God for, what I do have and where I am. But it's always also been that destiny beating in my heart, like, okay, there's something more. And I remember one day, this was many, many years ago. So it's been so long, it's been a long time ago. Probably, right. Let's see here. What about, so probably about 20 years ago. So there I was making a transition from ministry, and just kind of felt like, God was shifting me to go out and evangelize. And because it's always been in my heart to travel and minister, I just felt like, okay, the gift that I have, I want to just give that to as many people as I can. And so, taking that risk, and that's the thing, if you're going to go after your dream, your destiny, it's going to involve risk. Mm-hmm. And, people that take risks get unstuck. Okay. So there I was, took that risk, stepped out there, and things just did not work out like I thought they were going to work out. So found myself, not living the dream that was on the inside of me, but just mm-hmm. doing what I had to do in the meantime till I could catch my footing and figure out what I was going to do next. So I remember my bank account was draining, and I just took a job stocking groceries overnight at a grocery store. And I remember one night, around 2 a.m., we'd take a break, and I walked over to the little, I think it's called Choice Book Stand, that all the little books in the grocery store.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for some reading material, 2 a.m., I need something to read. So I grabbed the book, and it was called Just Enough Light for the Step That I'm On.
Yeah.
It was by Stormy O'Mardian, she was living in Nashville at the time. Oh. And so that's when, God was already dealing with me about transitioning to Nashville. I was there in Texas, and I just reached that place, man. I read that book, and it's like, okay, yeah, I've got to begin to take some next steps. I can't stay stuck here. Got to get back up, and I've got to start changing some things in my mind. I've got to get a better attitude, and I got to start moving forward. I just knew, because you get to that place, either you do or you don't. Okay. Mm-hmm. And, if you don't, then you're going to have a miserable time, because you'll never be comfortable. In my book, I talked about a place called Settleville. Yep. Right. And a lot of us hit this place called Settleville, and we're miserable. But then, we don't want to take the risk to get out of there. Or maybe we've done it and we've had a crash and burn moment. So now we need that safety and that comfort mm-hmm. zone. But the problem is, when you're in Settleville, you're in Settleville. You settle for a life less than what you could be living. And that's when, I just had that epiphany, man. I got to make some changes. This is not the end all. There's more. And I just got to keep driving and pushing and walking towards that, whatever that is. A lot of times we don't know. I mean, we have a glimpse, but it's in moving that it's revealed, if that makes sense. It's in taking the next step that plan is revealed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and who would have thought that was the start of what eventually turned into your book? Yeah. So you just never know. You never know where things are going to lead you, right?
Exactly. And so, we've had the ability to lean on each other during those times, where I felt that we're pushing and just going forward, and then there's just moments where just you get stuck.
Yeah.
And then we have that recurring theme in our relationship.
Yeah, and I think it is because like we refuse to be satisfied, which is kind of a blessing and a curse. You know, we don't want to live in Settlesville, like we said. And I think we've always really tried to push each other, and we want to be like the best person ourselves. We also want to be the best couple we can be. And so I was so glad when you said in your book, you know, where it's okay to be discontent. Like discontent is not being ungrateful.
Exactly.
And that's something that I've always battled with, because I just feel guilty that I'm, you know, not living more in the present moment, or that I'm being ungrateful, or that I'm too much of a dreamer and I should just be happy with what I have. And I've actually felt this way ever since I was a little child. I talked about it on one of our other podcast episodes. I've always had this restless feeling that there was something more. I was destined to do something great. It sounds cocky when I say it. I don't even like to say it out loud. I don't even know what that is per se. But yeah, so I was so thankful to sort of hear you say that. And so I'm wondering, I'm curious, is that doubt and that guilt I feel, is that the mind monsters talking, or what is that, just human nature?
You know, I think it's a plethora of different things that could be talking to somebody like yourself or anybody in that situation, because we've all been through there, to where, you know, things are well, and you look around, it's like, okay, yeah, you know, married, children, things are good, but it's like, okay, man, but, you know, I kind of liken it to this. Have you ever, especially in, you know, times where you're munching out at night, or you just eating some junk food or whatever, but and then like 10 minutes later you're hungry again, so you go back and you're like, man, I just, you know, and because you haven't found that meal that has satisfied you, and so you're always on the hunt to find that whatever that is to satisfy you, okay? And in the meantime, you're just throwing stuff in the mouth.
See what works.
But it is not. I go through that every night, and so God help me. So, but you got to find that thing that satisfies you, and you know, and I went through that a while back. You know, when that finally, you know, I'm just aware of it. It's not that I'm ungrateful. I'm very grateful, but there's just something beating on the inside of me that causes me not to look around and think this is the end all. It's great, it's good, okay, but this is not the end all. There's more, you know, and it just keeps driving and driving and driving, and you know, you just, you know, go through different seasons to where driving you faster, or then seasons where you know, you're restructuring and retooling and kind of thinking about, okay, let me build some more strategy around this, and not let me be so frustrated with where I am right now. You know, and I think it's trying to create that balance, you know, especially when you're husband and wife, you know, it's like there's a balance there. You know, I'm more of the, you know, I told my wife a while back, it's like, man, I could sell everything, get an RV, and let's just travel around the world. You know?
There's been a couple of conversations where we've had that. It's just,
you know, I'm like, that's me. So, it was so funny for a season, you know, we're driving down the roads and I'm starting to talk to the kids about campers and RVs, got them so excited. Like we're going on road trips and they're like, Dad, there's a camper, there's an RV.
Meanwhile, Heather's like,
yeah, exactly, you know? So, you know, it's good that in that relationship, it can bring a balance, you know, but at the same time, it's like when there's, you know, one of you is still, you know, dreaming and there, you know, there's something more. You got to learn to walk together towards that, and not try to pull somebody into what you've got going on, but just still walk together toward both of your journeys and whatever the destiny that God has for each one of you. You know, how does that, you know, how can that, you know, feed into the other, and how can that inspire and encourage the other? But yeah, you know, those mind monsters will come in and try to, you know, and this is my little mind monster that I always kind of take with me.
That's super cute.
Because they're so good, you know, what they do, they sit on your shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay. And, you know, you're sitting there, you're strategizing for your future, and they're trying to, you know, talk you out of it. Like, who are you? You know, are you too good? What, you know, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so, but the more you let that mind monster sit on your shoulder, eventually you begin to talk to it. And the moment you begin to turn your head and talk to it, man, it's got you. It's got your attention, your focus, and you're not looking forward anymore. Okay. You're worried about what people are thinking about you, what people are going to say. You're worried about if you have a crash and burn moment when you take a risk, you know, step out there. But once again, you know, risk takers, I guarantee you, they're glad they took the risk to get to where they are.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah. So I guess if we had listeners that are feeling sort of stuck where they are, they're not really sure what their next move is. You know, how do you stop making those excuses? Because it does a lot of times come down to sort of the excuses. Oh, I'll do that tomorrow. Or, you know, how do we tune out those distractions and really face those fears to, you know, get to where we need to be? And, you know, where do you even start with that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think when the pain of being stuck becomes greater than the pain of taking a risk. Okay. So that causes movement, and you've got to reach a place to where when you know you're stuck, you know, and you've listened to yourself, every reason of why you should not get back up and move forward. You've had some educated conversations with yourself. You've told yourself, you went down that trail and you've told yourself, hey, here's the reasoning why you should not do that. Okay. And you know, in reality, it's until we get out of our own way and begin to just take the risk and take the next step, and then kind of be honest with yourself. Okay. Oh, and let me tell you this, first thing we got to do, we can't blame anybody for why we're stuck. Okay. That is so key. Some people remain because they do the blame game. Okay. I lost my job because of that person.
Yeah. Right. Right.
They sabotaged me from getting the promotion. You know, and when we're blaming people, it doesn't allow us to look at us to kind of challenge ourselves. Hey, what can I fix on the inside? What can I fix with my attitude, my thought process? What can I fix? You know, if I'm lazy, I need to tell myself, hey, you're lazy. Let's change that. Okay. Yeah, exactly. And that's reality right there, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, when you start out on a journey, if you're going from being stuck and you're sick and tired of it and you're ready to take that next step, okay, this is the most crucial time because, you know, Don Shula said it this way. He said, the start is what stops most people. Okay. The start is what stops most people. And, you know, when you actually start something, you go from just dreaming about it because we're in a good stage. If I'm comfortable, I'm stuck, then all of a sudden dreaming about it becomes medication for me to be stuck.
Wow.
It intoxicates me to where I don't have to look at reality that I'm stuck. Let me just keep dreaming about this.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah. I never thought about it that way, but
imagining this. And all of a sudden now this is, you know, it's no different than going to the bar trying to drink your problems away. You're dreaming about it.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
So now I'm like, I'm intoxicated, and I don't have to deal with the reality that I'm stuck. And so when you get sick and tired of that cycle, then you begin to, okay, you know what? I need to call myself out. I'm lazy. You know, I'm hurt because of the past. I'm still holding on to what did not happen in my life. I blame people. We got to let all that go. We got to step up to the plate and take the next step. And when you begin to do that, I think that's when the real work starts. I think that's when we've made a decision. We're going to take this next step. Come hell or high water, whatever. We are committed to this journey. I don't care where I end up. I just know I don't want to stay here and stay stuck. You know?
Yeah. I think we've been in that situation before, and it actually took a cross-country move to LA to really, I mean, it was like one of those things, not that everything takes that drastic of a measure, but it was one of those things where
we were in a place where,
you know, and you were the one that really kind of helped push that, which was great because I don't know that I would have taken that step on my own.
Well, we realized that we were just in a bad space. You know, we wanted something different. We were feeling stuck.
Couldn't grow.
We couldn't grow, you know, and so we're just like, hey, let's start putting a plan together to get out.
Yeah.
And so, and we made this drastic change. We made this move and just like, hey, let's just do it. We don't have the job. We don't have, the friends. Let's just go out and take that risk, like you said, and, not blaming it on somebody else because we're not happy.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like probably the best thing we ever did. I mean, it's not been perfect by any means, but it's prompted so many other things to start lining up, and so many, this podcast is just one of the things that,
and
sort of prompted.
Yeah. And all of that, and that's the beauty of the journey, because all of those things begin to happen after you take the step, and I love it because you said, we felt stuck and you said, let's start making a plan to do something. So it all starts with that plan. At least you didn't, and a lot of people don't plan for anything. And we all know that if you don't plan, it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's not going to happen very well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you took the step and you made the long haul, the journey, not knowing what was on the other end, not knowing what was awaiting you, and that's a huge thing to take that kind of risk. And I think by nature, a lot of people are just so anti that risk, because it's a we don't know, and nobody likes to step into the unknown or unfamiliar. Okay, you guys have done both. You've stepped into the unknown and the unfamiliar, but all of that will be rewarded as you stay the journey and as you stay committed to the process. And that's when all these things begin to happen that, wow, and what, you guys will have these kind of conversations like, wow, okay, this never would have happened if we hadn't have moved, like you said about the podcast. And this is just one of many things that are going to happen that never would have happened if you guys had stayed where you were. Yeah. And that is the beauty of it. A good friend of mine, and I think I wrote about this in my book, when I think I talked about the risk reward in the book. A real good friend of mine, his father-in-law came to visit them in Nashville one day. His father-in-law was a very successful real estate businessman, and my friend took him for a drive, and they were going through some of the very high-end areas of Nashville, and they're driving through some of these neighborhoods with these mansions, And my friend is like, he's looking out like, whoa. And he told my father-in-law, he said, man, I wonder what do these people do for a living, He said, I wonder how much money they make, That's what my friend, that was on the forefront of his mind. And his father-in-law looked at him and taught him a huge lesson. And when he relayed that to me, I was like, wow, that's so deep. His father-in-law said, well, I wonder what kind of risks they took to get to where they are. Right. And so there's the whole perception. That's the difference right there. My friend was thinking how much money they make because of this big mansion, but his father-in-law knew, none of that would have happened. But somewhere in that person's life, they took a huge risk to do something, and now that risk has rewarded them. Yeah. And that's where we've got to, once again, and you know what, and that goes with that excuse too. When those excuses start popping in, we've got to get out of our way. I tell people a lot of times our mind goes towards the negative so quick. We think of everything that is not going to happen, right? And we can put the same amount of emotional energy into thinking, okay, what is going to happen, right? And we just keep that fueling us. Even when things go wrong, we're still in our mind, we're looking for the things that are eventually going to start happening for us if we stay committed to the journey. And it's always a process. It's always a going through the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows. And, just got to stay committed to it and keep walking it out.
Yeah. Keep those blinders on.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we first kind of broke the news that we were moving, we were not prepared for some of the reactions we got, because you talk about in your book, and man, we've encountered this throughout, our relationship is those kind of naysayers. Because when you start to talk about achieving your dreams, it makes other people uncomfortable, and I'd never quite encountered that before until we just got some, we got some folks that were like, thought it was the coolest thing ever, but we also got some, some very interesting reactions and responses to,
why are you moving all the way out there?
Yeah. Why would you leave your job?
Yeah.
And, all of the, all of those things. And,
yeah. It's that mind monster trying to search.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In whatever shape, fashion, or form, why would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you leave? Security. Why would you give? All that stuff. And that's when you just and going back to, like you said, with the blinders, and you love people. Don't let that offend you, because at the end of the day, they're not responsible for you getting to where you're going. You are responsible to get to where you need to go, to where what you see on the outside can eventually match what you see on the inside.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's one of those things that it's just, that's why I tell people all the time, when there's just destiny beating in your heart, man, there's nothing you can do about that. You are not going to sleep it off. Okay. Yeah. You're not going to sleep it off. You can try to forget about it, but it's that, and I'm totally convinced that's why, and you probably run into people like this that have had a big dream at one time, and something happened that kind of just took the breath out of them, and they recognized that they could have got back up and went forward, but they just never did, and you can recognize that depression on the inside of them, and you just know, because they know for the rest of their life, they will know, hey, I could have done that, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I've compared it to him before. We don't have kids, and when we first got together, we talked about the fact that we didn't think we wanted kids. So I've compared it to him. I've told him that this feeling I feel is kind of like what I assume it must be for someone who wants to have a kid, that desire, that strong innate desire to have children. And like, if you can't, then like that grieving or that longing, that feeling, like that is what I feel a lot of times, is just like this, it's almost like, because it's something I'm longing for in a way, sometimes it feels like a negative because I don't have that, whatever that is right now. And so it almost feels like I'm grieving that loss of that thing. And sometimes it also feels very hopeful and aspirational, but it's like this really weird, it's always there though. It never goes away.
Yeah. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. That's one of those things that, but a good word brings encouragement, and you're the person that can bring a good word into your mind when you're going through those seasons, to where it's feeling like, man, I'm never going to have that. And no. So you kind of reverse that and put those good words back into your mind that, I may not have it now, but if I stay the course and stay the journey, one day I am going to have that, One day I'm going to be there. One day I'm going to reach the place that I've been dreaming about. I'm going to be living the life. And, and really, I kind of look at it like this: you're doing it now because it's a process. Yeah. Okay. It's success is not a sprint. It's a marathon. So you're walking out your success even right now. And you guys said, hey, let's make a plan. Let's make the move and go. So that's part of the success journey. I tell people this all the time. If you ever are in a situation where you are in the presence of a very successful person, maybe somebody that you've admired, you've read their books, you've followed them online or whatever, and they're just one of your mentors from a distance. But if you ever are in a situation where you can get some one-on-one time with them, the number one question I tell people you need to ask that person is, you need to sit down and say, hey, tell me about your pre-success story.
Right.
Okay? Yeah. Because that's the story that you want to hear. Okay. That's the story that will connect with you where you are in the middle of your success journey. Okay.
Yeah. So Adonis, I think you might have been like spying on us earlier today, because we just said we're going to write a book at some point about starting a business from the beginning and talking about the process, because all you ever hear is
the afterwards, like, oh yeah, we're successful now, but like,
this is how we did it.
Yeah. What did you do before that? Like, how was that process? Oh, well, we
Yeah.
just did this. Like, no, I want like step by step kind of deal.
Yeah. Tell me when you were eating cheese and crackers for a week.
Right, right. You know, going through the 800 phone calls and trying to get people to hang it up on you, or like, no, I don't want this, or I don't want that, and then finally you get a couple of steps ahead. You get a couple of yeses. People are, you know,
glimpse of hope.
Yeah,
glimpse of
hope, you know. And so it's like with something like that, and then you look at it like, you know, you have some outside distractions and some things that you can't control. So how do you continue?
Yeah, like
that.
So there's the being stuck by choice, but then there's also sort of this being stuck by outside circumstances outside your control. Like if we even look at what's going on right now and people being laid off or whatever, is that still just another sort of excuse? Are there still ways to sort of move forward and put a plan in place, or how do you help people?
I think with that, in the situation we're in, people are quarantined, people are, stay at home and slowly opening back up. And here's the thing that I kind of determined in my mind, nobody can quarantine your mind. Mm-hmm. Nobody can tell your mind to stay at home. Nobody. So as long as you keep your mind moving and your wheels turning, it doesn't allow you to look at the moment of woe is me. Right. Or, because at the end of the day, nobody likes to feel controlled by other people. Okay. And we're in a season where it feels like, okay, people are telling me to stay at home, or people are shutting this down, and it's affecting a lot of people. And it's a horrible situation. But even in those moments, in those situations, I think we can make the shift in our mind and start looking for, okay, what's next? And here's a prime example. So, and I tell people all the time, once again, the mind monster will try to get you to focus on things that you can't control. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then you're spending all your emotional energy being drained trying to control or manipulate a situation, and you can't. So instead of worrying about things you can't control, start focusing on things you can control.
Yeah. That makes sense.
That
makes sense.
Yep.
You control
your mind.
Your mind. You can control that, So I remember, I think it was back in, what is this? All the months and weeks are running together. So I think in March.
We're on like what?
So March, I'm driving back from Alabama, and finished up an event at a college. So I've got one of my team members with me. We're driving back, and this is that week where everything just starts shutting down. So I know, okay, man, schools are shutting down. And part of my business, I go into schools and colleges and present, do a lot of leadership stuff for students, for faculty. I do a lot of going and work with the faculty as well. So that part, man, that just shut down, And then and you guys know my background, I still travel and minister in churches as well, and right. I just come off a road trip in Texas, and things were just, kind of lining up, and all of a sudden all this came to it, Ooh. And I remember driving home from that event, and I dropped off one of my team members that went to help me, and I called my wife and said, hey, babe, I'm just going to run by the grocery store, pick up a few groceries, and come on home. And in the grocery store, man, I just had this, and that's when, people would, going in, just buying up everything. And so I'm like, let me just get in there. I wasn't hoarding, but just kind of getting a few things.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm going around the grocery store, and this thought just popped into my head, hey, why don't you start putting all your stuff in video format to get ready? Because some of these clients may call you because they're going to be scrambling too to try to find some content for their programs.
Right, right.
So that's the only thought that popped in. So it's like I couldn't control what was going on around me, but I could control that thought, and I could incubate that thought, and I could begin to put a plan, like you guys mentioned. I can begin to put a plan to that thought.
Exactly.
And I called up some team members and said, hey guys, I think, it's an unfortunate situation, but I think we can still provide something and get it ready you know, and then, you know, and we just started getting some stuff ready, some video stuff ready. And I did all that before I got one phone call from a client that reached out. And so it was like, when that happened, it's like, man, okay, yeah, I was focused on the right thing.
Yeah, exactly.
The wrong thing. So I was preparing while nothing was happening, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So once again, you just gotta, you know, take control over your thoughts, your emotions, and, you know, and this was so funny, you know, in those seasons where you feel like all hope is gone, you know, I think it's time to bring a little laughter back into, and that's what we got to do, guys. When we hit those moments, how can we control that moment where I feel like, because we go through it, it's like, man, am I ever going to get there? Am I ever going to reach that place, you know? And the moment our mind zones off into that, then, you know, our joy level drops and we get discouraged to the point of, okay, do I wake up in the morning and even attempt to continue working on whatever it is that I was working on? And I think you got to take a little break to where whatever it is that can spark some laughter back on the inside of you, whatever that is, do it. You know, I've been doing that throughout this whole season that we're in now. You know, I went back and I know this kind of dates me, but I went back and the other day I was, I think it was Easter. We were, they did a marathon on television. So they had Welcome Back Kotter episodes going on.
Oh, okay.
And, I've never seen that show.
I've seen it. Yeah.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
So I went through, and I used to watch that when I was a kid, man. And so that just, man, I'm looking at that, like that just brought back all those good feelings and memories and the family sitting around watching that show. And I went to YouTube, man, and I looked. They put all his jokes. He told all these little dry jokes. Mr. Kotter did. And so I went back and looked at all those. I'm laughing. You know, my wife comes home. I'm going up to her trying to tell her those jokes and stuff. But, you know, you got to do whatever it is you have to do to get your mind back in the right place. Because when your mind is frustrated, it can't think. It can't move forward.
We've resorted to torturing our nearby neighbors with horrible karaoke singing.
You know?
We might even document that on our YouTube channel soon. I don't know. We'll see. It's pretty bad, but we had fun doing it.
Remember to, you know, get the laughter in and make sure that we're feeling good. Definitely.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So this has been a great discussion. You know, thanks so much for, you know, opening up, sharing your expertise.
My pleasure.
Being on with us. Yeah, definitely. So
we always close the show with questions from our listeners. As a reminder, you can send those to us, feedback@thetalkingcouple.com. So question for tonight is,
you want to go?
You go. Yeah.
My wife and I have been together for 8 years, and it feels like we're not growing together anymore. I'm worried about us growing apart, and how can we get back that spark we had when we first started dating?
Yeah. So what do you think?
So, well, for me, I'm always upfront and want to confront it and just say, hey, look, this is how I'm feeling. This is, you know, what's going on. I think that we need to really talk about it and, you know, see how you're feeling. Like what changed? You know, what, just because like work or whatever the case may be, I think it's really important to discuss that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're feeling that way, then chances are she's feeling that way too. And I mean, maybe kind of go back to what drew you together to begin with. For us, dancing brought us together. So anytime we're feeling a little ho-hum or feeling a little frumpy in our sweats or whatever, we just get all dolled up and go out on the town and dance. Obviously not lately, but that's definitely been our go-to.
I will say we have danced in the kitchen and in the living room, just around, you know, put some music on, and granted we're not going out in the world, but it works.
So Adonis, we'd love for you to weigh in too, since you've been married longer than us.
You know, and you know, because everybody's on different levels with that. You know, 8 years, it's like, what has changed? It could be job, it could be children. Okay. You know, So the whole family dynamic has gone from the 2 of you to could be 5 or 6 of you all of a sudden. And so now it's trying to manage all of that. And at the end of the day, you know, depending on whether you got children or not, it's like it was just 2 hearts and all your affection went to one person. Now all that affection has to be divided.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But it's always that hunt to keep the main thing the main thing. And so whenever you feel like that, it's like I'm always like, okay, we need to spend some time together. What can we do to spend some time together? And so I think those are the indicators when one person starts feeling that way. And if the other one doesn't, it's still, if one of you feels that way, it affects both of you. So it's still like trying to get back, okay, what can we do to, you know, making sure we're spending time together. Now that time may look different, you know, that time may, at the end of the day, you've got the kids in bed. It could be laying down trying to watch a movie, okay? And so
not falling asleep.
Yeah.
my wife does the same thing. But you know, it's like we're both there together. But I know, like, you know, she'll pick a movie. It's like, babe, in 5 minutes you're gonna be asleep. But she's like, but I'm with you, you know. And so,
Yeah, I'm stuck watching the whole show, the whole movie.
yeah.
He's like, what happened? I was like,
And I'm like, we've never seen that movie. He's like, I did.
Exactly. You know, and that spark may look different, but it doesn't mean it's not a spark anymore. Okay, I think things do evolve. It doesn't mean the relationship changes, but it evolves depending upon what else has come into the equation. You know, in our situation, it's children, it's busyness, it's, you know, and trying to mesh all that together, you know, because then it becomes, okay, family time. It's a family getting enough time together, you know.
Yeah.
And it's going to be different seasons of that as well, you know, because we'll always look back, you know, it's one of those things, okay, what did we do before we had children? You know, and it's like, those things seem to be a faint memory now, you know, but then like one day I think we were driving somewhere and we saw, I don't know if we were in a different state or whatever, but we saw an old Blockbuster
the sign?
store still standing,
store?
you know,
Yeah.
you know. I don't know if it was vacant, but we saw the sign in the store, and we remember, like, you remember when we binge watched the seasons of Lost, like from season 1 to the ending, you know? And we did that as a young couple when we first got married. You know, we remember we'd go and rent like 2 of them and come back, watch them, then we'd go rent, you know, the same night, come back. You know,
you just cross your fingers and hope that box was there.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. You know, and we remembered that. You know, and now do we do that today? No, we don't. But it looks different, and you know, but it doesn't mean that it still can't happen. And so you just have to keep the open communication. Make sure those needs are still being met when it comes to, you know, that quality time. And once again, the quality time may look different. It may be shorter, you know?
Yeah.
Both of you can get away. And once again, that comes with if you got children or whatever that is, busy schedules, busy jobs, whatever that is. But you just have to stay involved in that. That makes sense. Because that's one of those things, if you're like, okay, well, I feel this way, but, you know, maybe it'll change. No, you've got to do something.
Yeah,
to make it.
Got to talk about it. Address it. Yeah,
Exactly. Well, Adonis, thank you so much. We love having you on the show. And for everyone out there, you guys can find Adonis's book and audio CD on his website at adonislenzy.com. Again, that's adonislenzy.com. And on the next episode of The Talking Couple, we're plotting out our future. And not just at
least 10 years of it. Right?
Well,
10 years. Yeah. So we did the single most effective goal setting exercise we've ever done. And we are convinced that you are going to love it too. So
until next time,
get to talking. Thanks for joining us for the Talking Couple podcast.
We have a favor to ask. Please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to The Talking Couple. We'd love to hear from you.
You can also find us on social media. We are The Talking Couple on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.